hope that more will join. And then we start, let's say, in 3 or 4 minutes. In the meanwhile, if those who have come, if they have any question to ask or any comment to make, or for that matter, any observation to make, please go ahead. Good evening, Praveen. So anybody has any comment, observation? Today we are going to look at diffusion of innovation, but we will also see, look at some examples from your labs where things have diffused or have not diffused, and try to see whether the discussion that we are going to present today can help in either accelerating the diffusion of technologies that you have developed or explaining the lack of diffusion in some cases. So that's what we are going to do. We will also have a presentation on water filter from IMMT, which hopefully would have been prepared. If anybody wants to talk about the plastics and why certain kinds of bottle must not be used, we'll be happy to have that. Thank you, Aparna. So, anybody wants to comment anything on either earlier classes or today's class? Yes, go ahead, Shankar. Go ahead, unmute yourself and please speak up. Go ahead, Shankar.
Sir, I have taken a project, sir. We use carbon monoxide in our laboratory.
Yes.
For reduction degradation index of iron ores.
Okay.
So for that we use carbon monoxide. We have a safety alarm if any kind of gas leakage is there in our laboratory. That is there already.
All right.
But in the absence of our laboratory personnel or in weekly off days or public holidays, if any gas leaks, the alarm sounds in that room only.
Yeah.
So for that, what we have done is we kept one more sensor which senses the leakage of CO, and immediately it will send an SMS to the security personnel at the main gate and in charge of our laboratory, sir.
Correct.
So that is we are going to take up the project, sir.
No, but that is not a societal need, so Shankar. This
Yes,
is something you should do in any case for your lab. I mean, this is desirable,
yes.
It's a good idea, but it is not a societal project.
Yes,
a
sir.
societal project is where a problem that society is facing.
Okay.
You understand? So let us say that there are different pollutants by different small-scale industries. I gave this suggestion to another group also from IICT, so I can mention it. And let's say you you develop a waste exchange, an online waste exchange, which I'm very keen about, because in this country, we don't have a waste exchange. So every industry puts down with some specification of their waste material. It could be chemical waste, it could be physical waste, it could be material, it could be metallic waste, different kinds of waste. And some specification of that waste, how much quantity is available, how old it is it rusted or ready to use, what form it is, and at what dumps will he provide. Some people say, just come and pick it up, I don't want anything, because I will have to transport it otherwise. So you are saving my transportation cost. Some others might charge for it. Now, that will then generate a very good ecosystem where one man's waste becomes raw material for somebody else. And that is what is called as circular economy. So our country wants to move towards circular economy, but we don't have a waste exchange. If waste exchange is not there, everybody tries to dispose it off in some public lands, somewhere in the water bodies, some low-lying bodies. And low-lying bodies are like lungs of our cities or our country, where drainage of water takes place. We choke it, lungs get choked. So my suggestion is take something of that kind. I'm just suggesting. This is one problem, but you could take up any other problem. You could look at the issue of worker safety.
Sir, we have one more thing is that, sir, we have kimberlite waste tailings are there. Kimberlite. with that, we are trying to prepare tiles on the walkways of corporation roads and something parks or something like that.
But then that is already known, you know. What
Yes,
is
sir.
new? What new discovery will you make? You see, your project should generate some insight about how to solve societal problems. We
Yes,
all
sir.
realize that all of you will do a great job of your thesis,
Yes,
which
sir.
will advance our knowledge and in some cases produce solutions for industry, isn't it?
Yes.
That
Yes.
we all know. However, why CSR decided to have this window of opportunity, that many times while doing that, we are not able to use our skills and our knowledge and our aptitude for solving some of the persistent problems of our society. And the intention behind this course and this module is to engage you with those problems which are intriguing, problems their solution is elusive so far, but you will find out. And it is possible that the solution you find out may work, may not work, doesn't matter. At least you have broken the inertia. You've asked the question about it. You will generate some ideas, some choices for people, and that will advance the subject. So, Sankar, my suggestion is look around, and it could be a small industry problem, it could be community problem, it could be mining problem, it could be waste disposal problem. I mean, there may be certain kinds of waste in the industry where you work, which may be toxic, and people may be disposing them off carelessly. How do communities save themselves from such dumping of improper waste in their backyard? So there are a lot of problems. If you can take up something of that kind, that'd be nice. All
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, good luck. Anybody else has any question before we start? Any question? Any comment? Any suggestion? Any observation? Dev is here. What was his name? Dev Brata or Dev?
So Dev Brata, sir.
Dev.
Here, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. I was trying to recall. I'm not very good in remembering name, but fortunately I remembered your name. So sometimes my mind works, sometimes doesn't in this regard. So Devrat, you're ready for presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can.
Very nice. Welcome.
Sir,
tell us about yourself a little bit, your
okay, sir.
involvement with this project, and then start.
Okay, sir. When I joined ACSIR-Unmet in 2007, it was actually already developed, and I was there in the team during the dissemination of this technology. So, and it is still going on like that. So, so I'm going to speak about how it has started and how it reached to the people that I'm going to share. So, please. Sir, should I start now, sir? Okay, please. Let me share the screen, sir.
Yeah, you can share. Rageshri, please permit him to share.
Sir, allowed ही है.
Allowed है, ठीक है.
Okay. So, is it visible, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Sir, good evening to all. I'm going to tell about the TerraFill water filtration technology, which is developed in IMMT. It is nothing but a clay-based filter media. It's made from clay, pottery clay, sand, and sawdust. And it's all started during 1999 Odisha super cyclone, and during that period, the inventor Dr. S. Kuntia, ex-chief scientist, he initiated the concept of providing safe drinking water in a very affordable cost, so that poorest of the poor can use this filter and can operate it. So he made one filter media from these locally available materials like clay, sand, and sawdust, and demonstrated that to this poor people. This filter, the first generation filter, we can say, that filter can be fixed in any type of container, like a terracotta container or a GI container, or even in the bucket. So this worked well at that time as a to provide basic drinking water during this natural disaster. So after that, after that, he optimized and modified the technology a little bit, and again he demonstrated the technology during 2006 to Chief Minister of Odisha at that time. And after that only, a full-fledged product of TerraFill water filter in 2007 came into the picture with a polypropylene food grade container that was developed by CPET Bhubaneswar, and it was inaugurated during that period. So this is the initiation of the project. Afterwards, different capacities and different with different materials of that container materials, other filters were designed. And in the Jalamani program, it was a program under Ministry of Drinking Water, and now it's Ministry of Jal Shakti. In Jalamani program, it was included in this technology has been included for iron removal technology, so that other state government can take this technology as per their requirement in their state for dissemination. Now coming to the technology, coming to the TerraFill technology, what it can do. As I said, it is made from the clay, sand, and sawdust. Very simple technology. No other chemicals or nothing is added to this technology. It just your mixing of those three ingredients and some simple process, and after sintering, you will get the filter. And it can remove your more than 99% of turbidity, and iron removal efficiency around 90 to 95%, and life cycle is more than 3 years. As in the main point is the cost of this operation is 3 paisa per liter. It's quite means economic, and it doesn't require electricity. It is user friendly. It's a green technology. Means disposal of this thing is also not a issue, and it is zero wastage, of zero water wastage. So summarizing it, as I said, it can work in very high turbid water. Means even in 300 NTU water, it can work, where other filters available in the market will get choked. And to clean those filters again to rework this filter, it's a headache. So this filter can be easily cleaned. Just you have to scrub the top surface of that with any scrubber, and it will work as a new. Second, the iron content. It can work as yesterday as discussed. It can work in up to 10 ppm of iron. But means, as I said, it's efficiency around 90 to 95%. It can work higher in higher ppm of iron content water, but the life cycle will be reduced. Or that is one part. Second, the cost of operation. As I said, 3 paisa per liter is coming around to 30. I think 30 rupees per ton of water. So this is the technology. Now, the iron removal technique means this study has been done by Professor T. Pradeep of IIT Chennai. He studied how it removes the iron, through this drinking water. So here, when we know when the contaminated water get exposed to the atmospheric air, then the ferrous form converted into the ferric form, and the ferric form is very unstable, and it hydrolyzed to form those colloids, the brown color particles, and those sizes are more than 200 nanometer. And our this filtration media, this clay-based filtration media, what we call TerraFill, its capillary pore size is around 0.2 micron. So it physically filters the your iron sediments, whichever either in the top of the filter candle. So it is physically filters all the sludge. That's why, as I yesterday as discussed, when there is 60 ppm of iron content water, that means the sludge generation will be very high. That means we have to frequently wash, clean the filters. And for that may not be economically feasible in a community-based system. So these are the picture study. As from the Central Groundwater Board website, I got this picture, the data that they have surveyed around 85,198 sites for that the drinking water, borewell, those sites, and more than 10 ppm of iron contents are there in only 238 sites, and more than 20 ppm only 49 sites. So mostly the habitats are less than 10 ppm of iron content. So this filter we can directly use. Otherwise, we have to make it a double stage thing so that we can further reduce the iron content from the water. And also, as per BIS, earlier it was 0.3 ppm that acceptable limit in the drinking water. Now it has been increased to 1 ppm. So that also can help this cause. About bacteria removal, as we know, the pore size, I mentioned, the 0.2 micron, most of the pathogens are above that one. But still, we recommend mild chlorination for 100% bacteria-free water. During natural disaster, we have distributed filters almost during every cyclone and flood situation, and those who they have appreciated our initiative, and we have already transferred around 125 technology to around 125 entrepreneurs across India, and still some entrepreneurs every year 1 to 2 technology transfer are happening here. And these are some the tenders which government floats nowadays, like in Madhya Pradesh Laghu, the Terrafill water filters, they use the Kerala government and other Gujarat government. Like there are business opportunity who are taking the technology, they are trying to establish themselves in the market. Thank you, sir.
Very nice, very nice. Now, what is the, before I ask, if anybody else wants to ask questions, then I will ask some questions. Anybody else wants to ask some questions to the? All right, my question is, first question is that, what is the mechanism of changing the filter? I mean, it's available to, in the market, you can buy candle kind of a filter, and then you mentioned that scrubbing is good enough. So do you give a kind of a small guideline to users as to how to clean it, or how does it happen?
Yes, sir. A user manual has been, means it is given with a filter set. Means, and the scrubbing, that means we provide a nylon scrubber. That same scrubber which mostly used for cleaning our dress, utensils and dress, that can be. Otherwise, we have to just scrub the top surface with the knife or something. We have just scrub the top surface. That's all.
Yes. Okay. Okay. And when you said that if the ppm level is higher, then the life gets reduced, is there a graph or curve which shows that if it is 20, then this is the life, 30, this is the life? Have you got
that we have not made, but we definitely will make that one.
So that will help the people who are in those regions where the ppm level is higher. They can then use it, as you said just now. Maybe even if they have to change it every 3 months, the cost is so low that it will not create a problem. Maureen Katham is asking a question. Can it remove the microplastics?
I don't think so. We have not studied that thing, but I don't think.
What is the nanometer size? I mean, basically, it depends upon the size of the particle.
This
microplastic. Let me check. Microplastic should not be less than bacteria, is it? But I know it can be inhaled, so surely it is very small size. But So microplastic size is 10 nanometers. So then there should be no problem.
10 nanometers quite low. It's means 200 nanometer our pore size, the capillary size of
200 nanometers.
0.2 microns, 200 nanometers.
So then the microplastic will not be filtered.
Not be filtered.
Okay. Okay. That's the important thing to know, because microplastic density is apparently increasing in the, isn't it? So in the sea it has gone up, in ponds it has gone up. So that's the interesting point for future development. If could be some way, I don't know what, there could be some way to have a, you mentioned that there could be two-stage filtering in certain cases. But when bacteria and other things are filtered, they remain active, isn't it?
Yes, sir. That's why we usually recommend mild chlorination, like 2 milligram per liter of bleaching powder in the raw water.
Do you give it with the filter? Do you give that tablet?
No, we not give, but we in the manual we write those things that you have
but you know that rural areas people will not be able to buy them. These are not available so easily. Chemist shop doesn't have it. So it might be a good idea to supply for at least 2 years or 3 years, because these are very low cost tablets. You can add that into the cost, or you can tell the entrepreneurs to add that into the cost and give it that this is the tablet that you should put in.
Definitely,
that will help. Because this is such an important, 60% diseases are waterborne. 60% diseases, human diseases, are waterborne, typhoid and many others. So therefore, it will help a great deal if you could add that small feature, just a small add-on system, and not cost much. Like protein tablets are very cheap. Government might give even some subsidy on that, possible. Any other question? Any other question? About the diffusion strategy, it's very impressive that 125 people have this. What is the diffusion strategy? You have advertised, or you wait for them to come to you, or through media it has gone to, word has gone around? What are the ways in which you have tried to spread the word around?
Earlier it was the Jalamani program of Government of India. From that, many entrepreneurs came. They inside that they may get the tender or something. Initially, mostly entrepreneurs they came like that only. Afterwards, when it get little popularized, then some entrepreneur thought they can make a market out of this, so they started taking that one. At present, I think 10-12 entrepreneurs are actively doing the things. In South, some Watson is there, Chandrasekharan. He is popular in South. He is doing good job. And in Madhya Pradesh, one organization is there. In West Bengal, Puro water filters, they have doing well. Like that means in few pockets they are working.
When you mentioned about iron, what about other salts? This question came up yesterday also.
That is one problem. It cannot treat your TDS. Means the TDS part means it cannot treat the TDS. Means is that in the raw water what it is, the filter water the same.
Okay. But many times iron occurs along with salt. Iron does not occur alone. I mean, the water which are rich in iron may also be rich in salt. Is it true?
In some cases, it is true.
I mean, let me just check. This is a whether so. Correlation is 0.82. The correlation between iron and some of the salt is 0.82. Of course, details will have to be seen. So if correlation is so high, then perhaps your team should work on the next level of filter, which can also remove the salts. It can be a double stage, that means one filter for removing iron and second for salt, or it can be doing the same thing. But some way will have to be found. I do not know whether the compound like alum or boric acid can precipitate the salts. Will that help or not? But there are some simple ways actually of precipitating, which can precipitate the salt in the water, and therefore it can deposit on the candle. I don't know how well would that be, but still. So the public procurement, as you said, comes out to be one of the important driver of diffusion in your case, isn't it? Because tenders are being issued, because government is buying, that is called public procurement, is very heartening to note, because I have not seen too many public procurement examples of innovative technologies. In fact, for the startups, my complaint has been that hardly any technology, diagnostic or otherwise developed by the startups in our country, has gone for public procurement. So I'm so happy that in your case this has happened, and that you mentioned you gave credit to that water mission of the government, which led to the direction to the states, I suppose, that they should give tender. They may have approved your filter and then this as an advice. So that's very good. I think that comes out very strongly. If there is public procurement directive or incentive, then the scientists find a lot of traction for their innovations, apart from the fact that it is so low cost and so robust that itself has a merit. And you mentioned that there are some entrepreneurs who are taking it just on the market basis, not on the basis of the government. So that means it is getting traction as a private enterprise, private business also. So thank you so much, Debrata. Thank you very much. It is very illuminating.
Thank you, sir.
There is no other question, then I think we have learned a lot from your example, your presentation. And since yesterday only I had seen the tweet, it came so topical for our discussion, as if it was designed for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Friends, any other question before I proceed? For I and Anamika, we will be dealing with this issue today about the incentives for diffusion of innovation, portfolio of incentives. And we'll also do an exercise today. So please let me know if there's no comment, then we'll start. And what are we going to do? So first question that we're asking today is, should scale become the enemy of sustainability? So as you see these two pictures, the first picture has this whole bed of one plant, this whole bed of another plant, this whole bed of one plant. So here diversity is much less, scale is much higher of one particular species. In this picture, you find a lot of species around. Now, diversity in general, in nature particularly, but otherwise requires diversity. I mean, sustainability requires diversity. Sometimes there are innovations, as we will see today, which are niche specific. Some may be yes, please. Somebody is speaking.
Yes, I am.
Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. I don't know who it is. Please mute yourself. I'll have to find out. Rageshri, if you're watching, please mute the person yourself. So, yeah, just mute. Somebody by mistake may have switched on the mic. Doesn't matter. So, we should not necessarily allow the scalability as a condition to disqualify certain solutions that you develop for societal purposes. We should not say, oh, if it cannot scale up, it's not a good solution. No. As we just discussed, there are 100 odd regions where ppm is 20. And there may be maybe 50 regions where ppm is more than 30 or 40 or 50, as we saw yesterday. Now, does it mean that no lab should develop filters for 20 districts or 10 districts or 15 districts because the scale is limited? That would not be fair. Those people have as much right to clean water as any other person. So scale cannot be allowed to become enemy of sustainability. In social development, we cannot say that a problem must affect 1 million people, otherwise I will not solve it. That would be a paradoxical statement. You allow the problem to become so big that it acquires a scale, and then you will attend to it. So my suggestion to all of you is that when you select a problem, when you work on it, don't allow the scale to come in the way, the scalability to come in the way of identification of the problem. I agree that sometimes one might feel that why should I work on a problem which is affecting, say, 50,000 people or 5,000? That's many diseases are called as orphan diseases. Companies don't invest in resources in those diseases. Scientists don't sometimes work on those diseases because only 10,000 or 5,000 or 20,000 people are affected by the disease. But what about the parents of those 20,000 or 10,000 children? For them, this is a life and death issue. They would wish that their child recovers from those diseases, if possible, so that they can have him or her have a bright future. Now, morally, such problems cannot be ignored. We cannot justify ignoring problems which do not affect a very large population. So this is one of the takeaway of today. Does anybody disagree with it? Anybody disagreeing with this statement? That resources are constrained. How can we take up problems of small communities? We have to allocate funds only for those which are affecting large number of people. Is there somebody who would like to take that position? Please speak up. आपका viewpoint हो सकता है. Let us argue. Maybe something new will emerge from that argument. All of us will learn something better. So if some of you genuinely believe that, no, sir, we don't think our lab or our system will permit us to work on problems which affect only few units, let us say, in industry and not the whole sector. Is it true? Anybody? Yes or no? Give me some response.
Or they can also say where diversity becomes a problem rather than a solution.
I mean, where you develop a multitude of solutions for different kinds of, different degrees of problem or different nature of problem in the same domain. And you find that diffusing those portfolios of solution is very difficult.
Yes.
That also could be mentioned, yes. Anybody? That's also a challenging question. Let's say one industry is the bio waste, the solid waste of an industry has 15 different minerals. Now, one way is that you salvage all the 15 out of that waste and generate more value out of that waste. Or another is that you are salvage only 1 or 2 and leave the rest. Salt workers, we realized, some of you might know that salt workers have a concentrate liquid left after the salt crystals have been formed and harvested. It's called beton. It has magnesium, among other minerals, but it has also few other minerals. And industry buy it as very low cheap, and they extract 1 or 2 minerals only. But if all the minerals were extracted, this could become very valuable, and salt workers, one of the poorest people in our country, might get more value out of it. So this is an example where if you take care of all the elements of the waste, then the technology will become maybe slightly complex, but at the same time more useful from the waste management point. All right, if there is no comment or question, we proceed further. I am assuming that all of you agree that yes, if the problems affect smaller number of people or communities or villages, and it affects them seriously, it should not be ignored just because it lacks scalability. Is that right assumption? At least tell me that much.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sir, actually, I can comment on this, sir.
Please go ahead.
Actually, in the beginning, when Shankar was saying about that carbon monoxide alarm, you said that it should be a societal program. In that, you have just stopped him in that sense only.
Correct.
So the nature of the humans is the psychology is shown. So I think we have to inculcate the things for scaling up, which is the enemy of the sustainability.
No, it's a good point, Subhna, that many times we tend to be more concerned with what is proximal. What is out of sight becomes out of mind.
Yes, sir.
That is one. Second thing that you're saying, and which is also true, is that we tend to go more of same. We would like to use what we are doing and extend it more. That is obviously very easy because I've already developed a protocol, I've developed methods, so I can scale up very easily. But when you have to look at, let us say, if you want to give to the people who live around the industries a monitor of carbon monoxide, and you can tell them that, look, if the values go beyond this, then you should leave this space for a few hours, go away, and then you monitor it whole day and find out which time of the day or night the carbon monoxide concentration is highest, and then you go away from there and to some 10 kilometers away, 20 kilometers away, and come back after 2 hours or 3 hours by the time carbon monoxide would have diffused a little bit. Now that would be a useful solution because many people in industrial towns suffer from the pollution of this kind. So there is a way to convert our skills into a societal problem. It is not that we cannot do that. We should do that. We should do that. All right, that is also a point. Ajay has made a suggestion that sometimes we can do it stage by stage. Now, Ajay, the question is a good point, first of all, that we cannot solve all the problem at one go, so we should do it in phase-wise. Which end of the problem we should start with? That is a moral question, and also a professional question. Should I start with the end, which is easy to solve? That is one easy way. So that is called as low-hanging fruits. Whatever is easy, do it right away. Second is, should I start from the complex end if it affects also the poorest people? So should I ask myself, which end of the problem affects the poorest people? So let's say the easy end, the low end of the problem affects only well-off community for whatever reason. Should I focus on that? Or should I focus on the people problem? Let me give you an example. If you're in material science, and many people use white tile species on the roof to reduce temperature. Of course, they don't realize that it also reflects light. That light bothers the birds and it affects their movement. That apart. But there are other problems that people who live in kacha houses face. Now, I'm in the material science or I'm in building institute. Which problem should I give priority to? Problem of finding an easier alternative for the use of broken clay, white clays on the roof to reduce the temperature of a building so that my air conditioning cost can go down, or a problem that will make a hut safer from the fire, because every year, in the summer, because of fire, the huts get burnt, or sometimes because of the sparks from the cooking inside the hut gets burnt, and people lose all their savings and asset, whatever little asset they have. So making the thatched roof, fireproof, should that be the purpose? Now, these are solid questions. Some trade-off will have to be made. Ajay, what is your response to that, Ajay? Unmute yourself. I'm not saying you should choose one or other. It is your choice, but what will you prefer?
Good evening, sir. Ajay.
Yes, go ahead, Ajay.
So in my view, we should first take the problem of making the premises cool. As you said that using the white color tiles.
Even though it affects the rich people who can afford such roofs, isn't it?
Sir.
And you do that, you will do that because it is easier to solve, or is it because, why would you choose that? Because it is easier to solve. Is that?
No, sir, because it is, it provides solution. What we are looking for means our prime objective is to make the things
better.
Yeah.
So, but then what about the people who live in thatched roof and have fire hazard? What about fireproof?
That is another concern, sir. That is another concern. So,
but sometimes, Ajay, the human resources are limited, financial resources are limited in the lab. So when you do research prioritization, you will have to do as a professional also. Many of us have choices of doing work on different problems. Some problems are more lucrative. They get you more consultancy. They get you more rewards of the kind that you may value in the short run. But some other problems are long-term. It took me 30 years to make a global impact that the UNDP today says, no, in 115 countries, we need the honeybee network model of grassroots innovation. 30 years it took. 30 years, 35 years. Now, some other problem may have been solved much faster, much easier, and they are also genuine problem. Now, I'm not saying you take my example. I'm saying all of us face this dilemma. How do you prioritize the problems? Mute, please. So Ajay, I understand your concern. You don't have to defend it further, but I'm just saying that give a thought to the point that why so much poverty still exists in our country, at least by some estimates, about 20%. It was, before COVID, it was around 12%, 15%. It has increased now after COVID to about 20%. Now, 20% people of our country live in very awful conditions, They don't have clean water, they don't have safe place to stay, many of them, their children don't go to school, all kinds of problems they have. And surely, one of the ways to overcome that problem is to increase their income. And to increase their income, they need to have some enterprise. And for some enterprise, they need to use the resources which are cheaply available, which is bio-waste or industrial waste. And if they can transform that into something useful, they can get a job, among other things. There are many other things. When we looked at Modha's story, you remember what he said? Mr. Modha, who developed the Jacquard loom without punching card, said, I received many queries for licensing. But my condition was that the final product should not cost more than 50,000 rupees per piece. Since no licensee was willing to agree on that, I did not license it out. Now, that's one kind of innovator's response where he says, affordability of my solution is a must. In this case, in IMMT case, it's extremely affordable. 3 rupees, 3 paisa per liter, 3 rupees per ton, which is very low cost cleaning. So it's a very affordable solution. One could have developed maybe more costly solution. In fact, I was going to suggest to Debrata that in Chhattisgarh during our Shodh Yatra in probably in Bastar, we found very interesting solution. When somebody took a candle of water filter, which cost at that time about 25 rupees, took 2 pitchers. Above pitcher made a hole and fitted the candle there, and lower pitcher is for storing the water. Now the cost of plastic container is about 300 to 400 rupees. The total water filter, the part that does the water filtering is candle. It became 50 rupees water filter, as against 500 rupees. Simple innovation, simple, very simple. Fitted the candle in the pitcher. So you don't have to buy that plastic container. Why should you buy? So many times there are users who make simple solutions and then make it affordable. But in any case, getting back to the point, yes, it is a privilege or it is our moral responsibility. How do we prioritize? But we should know why we are prioritizing. And that will help us to keep are concerned in line. Yes, you're right. The data availability can affect the scalability of the problem. Many times we don't get the right data, in which case we should use indicators. When we were in Sikkim recently, and of course I have been many times before, Sikkim, Bhutan, and other regions of eastern Himalaya, wherever prayer flags are located, there in the mountains, Buddhist prayer flags, that region must have a wind corridor, because the belief among the devotees is that these flags must flutter, and they should also look at the river. They are the two conditions. So if I have to locate windmills, I will locate where the prayer flags are. So while I may not get data of the wind corridors or wind map of an entire region, but I can use proxy variables, and that can help me to scale my solution of windmill in this case to different locations. Let's go further. Now, this is my personal take on how do we prioritize our choices. And I'm saying that, yes, external incentives are one motivation. But most durable incentive in life is the North Star, Dhruv ka Tara, the North Star that we have found for ourselves. We have common sky, but each one of us has to find our own North Star. That will pull us in the direction and make a lot of dilemma lesser difficult to resolve. Once I know what is my North Star, a lot of questions get answered and a lot of unnecessary dilemma don't arise because I'm moving in a direction. And in that direction, things that deflect me from direction are no go. I'm not going to consider them. So those people who are driven by North Star of their own don't need external incentives. They are self-inspired and self-guided. They don't care whether anybody appreciated the work they do or not. They're able to tolerate indifference of the society, of the peers, of the professors. Doesn't matter. If they think they are right and they are solving a real problem, they wouldn't care. Sooner or later, the world will recognize their effort and appreciate it. So this is a useful reminder to those who believe that intrinsic motivation from within is, in my view, more powerful than extrinsic motivation based on reward and punishment from outside. Now let's look at what are the considerations that will affect, what are the dimensions of innovation which will affect the diffusion potential. Obviously, whether it is IP protected or DIY, that is the first question which will influence the diffusion potential. If it is IP protected, then those who can license it by paying the license fee can obviously adopt it. But if it is DIY, it might be easier to diffuse. Sometimes, not always. The origin, is it come from individual, community, NGO, private organization, public sector organization, international organization, or anonymous? So the origin of innovation influences. Sometimes when it comes from a big lab, people have a little more faith. Or if it is NCL technology or IMT technology, it must be robust. And I think that's well deserved. You have earned that faith of the society in so many years. Complexity, is it simple to operate or complex in operation, in use? That makes a big difference. There were examples where we have some class of innovations which are difficult, very difficult kind of plow that had been designed by one of our innovators in Maharashtra. It did not diffuse because you needed a lot of skills to operate it. It was good, but did not go far. Degree of disruption, is it incremental? Is it architectural? Is it disruptive? It is radical. What is the degree of disruption the solution provides? Many times when it's very disruptive and that disruption is very low cost and customers, the people like it, then diffusion becomes higher, faster. When there is an incremental change, people may or may not realize the value. So you are buying a car, for instance, and you find there are safety airbags. Before ACSIR-Unmet died, before people started discussing on the role of airbags, whether they should be on the rear seat also, on the front seat also, you might probably not pay attention to that feature. It is an incremental gain. You think the belt is enough. Or some people will say, no, I want extra safety. For me, that feature is important. So incremental innovations, the customer choice may gradually improve when word of mouth goes around. But in disruptive or radical innovations, when Mexican varieties of wheat came in India, 1966-67, they were disrupting the entire wheat production system because earlier varieties were tall, and when there was strong wind during the summer, March, April, harvest time, they used to fall down and the yield was getting affected. Dwarf wheat would not fall down. That was one feature. And of course, there were more productivity, higher productivity. So people just started stealing the ears of wheat. They get some seed somehow. People had to protect their fields in the night when the introduction was taking place, first year of the introduction, 66, 67. So degree of disruption can affect diffusion. The demand can rise when the disruption is more, and that demand-driven diffusion can take place as against supply-induced diffusion. In water filter, the government, through public procurement, stimulated the demand. And therefore, the entrepreneurs, as they were mentioned initially, came because they were finding large orders to fulfill. Therefore, they came. But later on, as the product got stabilized, people are coming up even without such incentive. Sector, which sector it is dealing with? What kind of technological, institutional, educational, or behavioral changes are involved in that innovation? Many times, behavioral change takes a long time. In food, in nutrition, exercises, the early sleeping pattern, these are all behavioral factors. They make a difference to our health, make a difference to quality of life, but these are behavioral issues, not easy to change. So if you have an algorithm which gives an incentive for people to get up early or walk more or whatever else, it might take a long time to generate traction, but still many of you now have Tracer or different other applications on your phone which tell you how many steps have you walked today. And if you have a target of 10,000 steps or whatever, you can then motivate yourself. So some innovations, though they are process-based, they are behavioral, but if the users find that change very valid, they can do it. But as we know in smoking case, is a behavioral change. There is enough publicity about why smoking is bad. For those of you who smoke, you continue to smoke. You know everything, but you continue to smoke. That I would assume that the number of smokers has gone down over the years. Probably, that's my assumption. After all the effort of public education have gone on. So innovations, what do they require to change can also affect the diffusion potential. Value chain, the product, the process, the service, the system, the policy. How do we align all of these so that diffusion takes place? When thermal power projects were being set up in India, government gave a freight equalization policy for coal. So whether you set up the plant in Jharkhand or you set up in Ahmedabad, the coal was available at the same price. Then a lot of thermal power plants came up in the country because they didn't find coal to be costly because of distance. Now that was a policy which government developed and which made the value chain of thermal power projects viable. Can we think about such policies? Tomorrow we are going to discuss on policy aspect of our technological solutions. How do we analyze policy implications? How do we lobby for changes in the policy so that our innovations will diffuse widely. Very important part. Many of us are so busy and so engaged with the technological features of our solution that we forget or ignore the policy side, our institutional side. And I would like you to pay some attention. Tomorrow, please, you should come with some examples, some problems that you feel we should address in the class, where you can mention that this is a solution we have, and these are the policy barriers. How do we modify them? How do we resolve them? And we can discuss some strategies. Target, who's the target of the solution? Is it common people, developed country, reverse innovation? That means you have developed a solution in developing country, but it's found useful in developed country also, which is called reverse innovation. For elites, for intermediate social groups, gender, youth, elderly, special need communities, industry, companies. So target group will also determine the diffuser potential. Sometimes there are surprises. So during COVID-19, we did a study with the help of UNDP, Acceleration Lab Network. We looked at how many places, quickly, within a month or so, people developed their own sanitizer dispensers or water dispenser for washing hands. And you will be surprised that in no time, please, in no time had such simultaneous innovations emerged in different parts of the world. Almost every country was having some dispenser model. It could be liver-based, it could be foot pedal-based, it could be hand-based, whatever. So sometimes the situation is so complex, the need is so urgent that solutions not only diffuse, but simultaneously evolve along the same spectrum. So it was not that Rwanda looked at the problem from Namibia or Namibia looked at the problem from India. No. They all realized that we need a way of dispensing sanitizer where we don't touch it. And therefore, we should try to find some lever mechanism, some tilting mechanism. And simple rope-based tilting mechanisms were found, and the whole range of bamboo-based, metal-based tilting mechanisms. Similarly, when sanitizer was being sprayed, people made a whole range of kind of mist chambers for spraying your body with the bleaching powder solution or whatever they were using at that time to disinfect. Location is very important, of course, I don't have to mention, but some regions which are high risk, flood-prone region, mountainous region, drought-prone regions, sometimes the diffusion takes place much slowly because the risk is higher. The private sector wouldn't like to take much risk. Scale, at what scale are you diffusing? And again, is it blendable, recombinable, or is it fixed package? Can I take the context solution apart and recombine it according to my needs? Studies have shown that very rarely do people adopt the whole package. So it was a good idea when Debrata mentioned that they were giving a scrub or a simple utensil cleaner. If you just write in the manual, scrub it, and in a village, they may not have something of that kind. They may scrub it too much or too little. So it was a good idea. It doesn't cost too much, a few rupees only, but giving a scrubber along with the filter was a good idea. I was thinking that similarly, the chlorine tablet could also be given. So sometimes blending solutions, these are separable. Scrubber can be removed without reducing the efficiency of water filter. Chlorine can be reduced with some decline in the efficiency of the quality of water, but not the filtering quality of the water. Filtering will remain unaffected. So we have to look at these issues. Can user make some modification in the design? Those designs which lend some flexibility are generally found to diffuse more. Any question up to this point before I proceed? We have a lot of issues to discuss, but I do not want to rush. I think you should be having, you should ask things if they are not clear, or if you add some point, want to add some point which you think is not there, you can do that also. Any comment, please? Comment is necessary. Otherwise, I will not proceed further. I will stay put on this slide. शाम तक 1 घंटे तक हम यहीं बैठे रहेंगे तो आपको react तो करना ही पड़ेगा. You have to react. Any factor which you think has been ignored here, missed here, there must be some factors. Affordability is obviously a very important issue, so that it can be afforded by the poor people. The target to cover that, even then. Repairability is a very important point, which is not mentioned here. Whether the users can repair, if it is a machinery, can they repair it themselves, or do they have to come to the dealer to get it repaired? That makes a difference to the popularity of the solution. If people can get it repaired locally by local mechanic, there's a good chance that the innovation will diffuse more. Whereas if it requires authorized registrations to do that, I mean, one reason Maruti got almost 50% share in the car market, and all other manufacturers have 10 to 15% only each, Hyundai and other companies. Whereas Maruti has more than 50%, because they trained the roadside mechanics. And anywhere in the country you go, you could find a mechanic who will repair the Maruti car. That was the advantage. That was a wonderful policy and gave them a lot of head start. Any comment? Repairability is one point. What else?
Sir, durability or
yes, it's very
correct.
Yes, you are right.
One
right.
use and throw like.
Correct. Durability is very important point. Should add that, because the pen, for example, plastic pens, where you use the refill, you can't change the refill now. It is all sealed. 1 rupee pen seems cheap, but if you calculate the cost of collecting that piece of plastic from 6,500 villages of India, it's a very costly technology. It's not frugal at all. It's frugal for the consumer, not frugal for the earth. So you're right that use and throw kind of solutions are no go. We should not encourage them. Anything else? Any other point is a good point. Any other point that you would like to add? Time-bound solution. You mean to say that whether it works efficiently in terms of productivity per unit of time? Is that what you're saying, Ajay?
So I mean to say that the innovation should be then and there. Suppose last year we had a problem with the pandemic. So the solution for the should be then and there. It should not be after 2 years.
So agile innovations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that means they should be available within the time of need. Yes, that's fine. That's a very good point. In fact, you know that when oxygen generators were to be diffused, a large number of hospitals. So I remember there was one Mr. Joshi in Amreli. We had a short yatra, we discovered him. And he realized that even if people were getting cylinders of oxygen, they did not have regulator, because cylinders did not come with the regulator which can modify the flow rate of oxygen. These cylinders were not designed with that regulator. So he talked to the doctors and asked them, what are the conditions regulators should fulfill? What is the range of flow rate of oxygen per minute which should be possible with the regulator? He understood. And then he designed that regulator, tested it, got it approved by the local doctor, and he made 150 of them. Imagine how many lives did he save, because there was a time when you had oxygen cylinders, but no regulators. The hospital would have only 1 or 2 regulators fixed to be attached to the gas cylinder. But we would need, at that time, you needed at home. A lot of people were being treated at home, and they were not getting regulators. So it's a very important point that you should solve the problem in real time. Any other point? Yes, maintenance, repairability has come, but serviceability is also important. Very true. I should mention this here. Repair and service is a very important point. Service.
Sir, this is Neeraj. Hello.
Yeah. Bolo. Please go ahead.
Sir. I think when any innovation which is helpful for something, but it is some kind of destructive for another situation. For example, refrigerator helps us in refrigerating any material, but it also destructs our environment. So that means
So
external factor. Yes, sir, but I do not know exactly how can I explain it.
No, you have said it very well. The environmental impact of the innovation. I mean, CFCs destroyed the ozone layer, and obviously these were not good solutions. So you're very right that same is about sachet, 1 rupee sachet of mouth freshener or tea bag or whatever.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes.
I mean, it looks cheap, 1 rupee, but cost of collecting the piece of plastic from thousands of villages is very high. So you are absolutely right that when we calculate the frugality or affordability of innovation, we should not just look at affordability for consumer, but also affordability for nature. Very good point. I completely agree with you, 100% agree. Good point. Any other issue? One point not mentioned properly, but you should always say gender issue. So what happens is that many times when we design things, we do not often take into account the way women will use it or the way women would like to operate it. One example, Namika can explain or show the picture of that gas cylinder portable device, a device to make gas cylinder move from one part of the house to
carrier.
Carrier. So if you can show them, that will be very nice. And so this was a simple innovation in Kashmir, out of all the places, that women, when the gas cylinder fellow will supply the gas cylinder, they wouldn't like a stranger man to come in the house or keep it or take it. So they have to, that fellow will deliver it at their doorstep. Then they have to carry it in the kitchen. And it is heavy. Men can roll it by tilting it. For women, it is heavy. So this carrier, which was designed by a local innovator whom we gave a small funding under Micro Venture Innovation Fund in Kashmir, was a very good solution. You could just lift the cylinder slightly, tilt it, and then with this carrier, you can take it anywhere. It had a small wheel and it will move very easily. So sometimes small innovation, but keeping gender dimension into account is very, very important. We have not many times thought about that implication, but it's good that we should do that. We should do that. Load carrying, the physiognomy of the women, the kind of stress that they can bear on different kinds of drudgery that is involved. So therefore, gender issue is also included. All right, good that we have shared so many dimensions. I'm happy that it added some value. Let's go further. So long time ago, I developed this framework, which will tell you how sometimes innovations reach the user whom we want, and sometimes there is a leakage. It can go in this direction or this direction. So what are the two sets here? One is potential users, people who can make use of it. And second is desirable users. Normatively, you want to reach some people. Let's say, you want to reach lower middle class or you want to reach low income people. But high income people can also use it. Let us say that solution. So you would like to have, ideally, actual user here. That means They belong to the desirable category, but they also have the potential. That means they have infrastructure, they have means to use it, and therefore they use it. But sometimes it leaks in this direction. A lot of people who are not target group get the benefit of that. Or rarely, but sometimes it also gets diffused in this direction, where it is given to people who don't have the potential to use it, and therefore it is wasted. It is useful to keep in our mind targeting of solutions, targeting of technologies. Many private sector companies, not many, almost every.
Sir, I got the video. Should I show them?
Yeah, please show them. Please show them. Please show them. Should I? I'll stop it here. Please show them. Sorry, my dog was the cow. It can be carried on steps. It is able to pull so easily, and it can be taken out so easily, and it's foldable. ये क्या नाम है इसका? नाम बता दो भाई. नाम क्या? हाँ, मुश्ताक. अच्छा, मुश्ताक ने बनाया है ये. वेरी नाइस.
बनाया और 150 रुपए में बेचता है.
क्या बात है, क्या बात है, क्या बात है. How many of you would like to buy it? Just let us get a hands on. Just how many of you would like to buy? One. How many? One only? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Isn't it nice? Maybe we should get it supplied to all of them. 10 have raised hand. आप लोग अपना नाम भेज देंगे तो हम आपको सप्लाई करवा देंगे. And at least one grassroots innovation will go around the country in your houses, and we will feel blessed. We'll get it done. It's very easy, very simple. I'm so happy that so many of you like it. And practical, very practical. And it has not come from gas companies, Indian Oil or other companies. It has not come.
In fact, उनके जो लोग डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करने आते हैं उनके लिए तो होना ही चाहिए.
हाँ, बिल्कुल ठीक बात है, क्योंकि उनको भी तो मेहनत पड़ती है ना देने में. वो ट्रॉली से निकाल के हाथ से घुमाते ले जाते हैं. Those workers who deliver, they also face difficulty. But I'm happy that so many of them need it. 9 of them. So if you send us your email to anamika@gyan.org, she will arrange to get it sent, and you can pay by Paytm, not a problem. After you get it, you can pay. Don't have to pay in advance. The cost of transportation will be added, that's all. So let us get it done, huh? Anamika? Once we get it, let us deliver it, so that there must be some action in this course. We are talking about diffusion. Some diffusion should take place today of a low-cost innovation, which is nice. So one of the ways in which diffusion can take place, therefore, is also the fact that we can demonstrate its utility. And yes, the numbers are increasing. Some people have put it on the chat. Just send a mail with your address so that we can get it delivered to you. That's very simple. So look at this now. Innovation from Kashmir will go to Trivandrum and will go to all parts of the country. How nice it will be. That is what Honeybee Network is all about. That's what Gyan is trying to do. And we are so happy that this innovation through ecosystem which Gyan, Shashti, NIF, National Innovation Foundation, all of them are working to help.
Sir, वो जो equipment है वो safety certified है sir?
Safety में तो क्या issue है इसमें भैया? आपने गैस का सिलेंडर रखा उसके ऊपर,
हो सकता है वो हो सकता है वो फोल्ड कर रहा है ना, उसमें कहीं बोल्ट वोल्ट निकलने से गिर सकता है।
नहीं, तो वो मेरा सजेशन ये है कि आप लोग उसको इम्प्रूव कर देना। आपको उसमें कहीं ना कहीं लैच होगा ना, छोटा सा, बड़ा सिंपल सा है। जब आप कोई भी चीज को फोल्ड करते हैं, व्हेन यू ट्राई टू मेक इट स्ट्रेट, यू पुट ए स्मॉल लैच और स्मॉल barrier, isn't it, to prevent it from folding?
Okay.
सर वो तो एक छोटा सा वो ग्रूव है जिसमें वो अटक जाता है.
Okay. So you have it with you?
No sir.
But we should get it work.
Yes sir, we'll get.
We'll get.
कल तो जा ही रहे हैं सर, ले लेंगे.
हाँ, अभी जा रहे हैं ना, we are going tomorrow. So we can even bring with us 10 of these pieces. What's the problem?
हाँ सर, जाके बोलते.
तो ज्ञान से भिजवा देंगे ना, फिर इजी हो जाएगा. वो कैसे भिजवाएगा सबको? कश्मीर से लॉजिस्टिकल कॉस्ट भी ज्यादा आएगी.
नहीं सर, उसको कुछ करते हैं.
हाँ, कुछ कर लेते हैं. Let's get 10-15 pieces. उसको आज ही मैसेज भेज दो, बना के रख ले, तैयार कर ले. We are going to Kashmir because Srinagar, because there is a traditional food festival. First time such a festival is being organized in Srinagar, starting on 23rd till 25th, and we are introducing some new products developed by the women groups in Baramulla. There we are working with the DBT project. As I mentioned to you, GAN is working in Baramulla, West Sikkim, and Kifere in Nagaland. So this is one of the occasions when some products will be launched. Okay, so that's very nice. We are moving next. I'm happy to see the response. And in 15 minutes, we will have a break. So don't lose patience. Just give me about 7 o'clock, we will have a break. Now, this is an important point. Diffusion is not a simple S-curve. You start slowly and then go forward. It can be sometime in spurts. So you heard the story of Modha, who said, not Modha, Sanjay Tilwa, that he sold 2 machines in 2017 or something, and then for 2 years he did not get any order. And he had to pay his staff, he had to pay the workers. And then after 2 years, he started getting orders when he told everybody to talk to these users. And now he had reached 250 machines per year. So diffusion cannot be a straight line. And if it is not a straight line, those of you who either are involved in diffusion should not get deterred by initial hiccups that you may face. Induced innovation is when somebody else promotes demand, as in the case of water filter, government was promoting and asking the tender notice to buy this filter. Therefore, demand was stimulated. It could be like that. Media could create awareness. Every day we hear from IHBT about different things that they are doing to create demand for lavender plants, for heme, and for so many other things that they have introduced. So you can stimulate demand, you can create awareness, you can provide information, you can provide 30-second videos on TikTok kind of a platform or Instagram. You can do various kinds. And you can also track derivative innovation. That means the innovation that users bring about in the diffuser. Many times our labs have not done that. When you diffuse an innovation, I do not know how many of you have gone to the users of the lab produced solution. Has anyone of you visited somebody who bought a technology from your lab? Anybody? Anybody of you, have you visited some adopter of your lab technology? I will strongly urge you to do that. The reason is, when you go to someone who has licensed your technology, it could be a small industry or whatever organization, doesn't matter. But at least you will learn something about how innovation operates in the hands of the user. Does it remain exactly as it was given? Or has user modified some form, feature, or function? Form, feature, or function of the solution to make it more effective. I can tell you that we have come across large number of variations, even by industrial workers. Maybe some of you have modified the instruments you got in your lab to meet the requirements of your experiments. You may have made some adaptation maybe sometime. So it is useful to know, and also the support available for diffusion from within the organization outside, or intermediary organization. For example, GYAN is an intermediary organization. It is intermediating between you and the innovator. If you remember the triangle, innovation, investment, enterprise, this is what this GYAN is trying to do. So intermediary organizations can also play a very important role in reducing the transaction cost. I will mention about transaction cost tomorrow if I have not shared it before. Ex-ante transaction cost and ex-post transaction cost. There are 4 ex-ante and 4 ex-post transaction cost. Transaction cost means when you want to enter into a contract between buyer and seller, between licensee and knowledge provider, innovation provider, what are the costs involved in that process? If you don't meet those costs, these are transferred to the weaker link in the chain. So it's very important that we recognize the journey is not. This is a framework, very simple one though, that developed a long time ago, which is looking at the communication and power, which is more relevant for community-based diffusion. So you have power, one-way power, two-way power, no-way power. Communication is one-way, two-way, no-way. So let's say if I am an authoritarian professor and I communicate, I decide what to teach, and you have no choice to either change the content, sequence, or anything, that will be a very authoritarian way of communication. There are such situations where communication takes place one way and power is also one way. If you have no power, nobody has power, but communication is one way. This is like broadcasting the message. A tom-tom beater or a street singer or somebody who's announcing on the street, so-and-so is going to come, or meeting is going to take place at this time, or please get vaccination done, or whatever. That person cannot change the content. He has no power to change the content. And his only job is to communicate one way. That's all. Broadcast. These are the broadcasters. So news broadcaster, for example, only communicates information one way. That fellow cannot change the content of the news because that's somebody else is writing. You have power two way, but communication one way, that is not possible. Those who have power will definitely use it one way or the other. Now we come to the next. Two-way communication, one-way power. So that is a farmer training center or extension centers where you have a dialogue between the trainee and the taught, but content is decided by one side. Two-way communication and two-way power, that is empowerment. So in China, they called it mass line concept. Gandhi called it village public concept, where village will have control over the way it uses the resources that the center provides, the state provides, and the state will have some control over the uses that they provide. And there is a tension between the two. When there's a power two-way, you will have to negotiate and two-way communication. A healthy system, a healthy relationship is of this kind. If power is not uniformly distributed, more or less distributed among both these partners, both the friends, both the sides, then one side will feel dominated, and this is not sustainable. So please make sure that you never take anybody else for granted. In a healthy ecosystem of innovation diffusion, we must give users the right to ask questions and also modify it. Then the empowerment will take place. And if there's no power, but there's a communication two-way, that's what we do often. So when you talk to your colleague in the corridor, यार वो रेफरेंस नहीं मिल रहा, वो मेरा रिजल्ट नहीं आ रहा है, कहीं मेरे को प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, कहीं जाकर देख लेगा मेरी, कैन यू जस्ट चेक माय इंस्ट्रूमेंट, इज देयर अ प्रॉब्लम, आई एम नॉट एबल टू सॉल्व इट. All that is collegial learning. You don't need power to be able to influence somebody's. You're seeking help, somebody offers help. It's a collegial learning, very, very healthy way of learning from each other. No threat, no coercion. If there is a one-way power, but no communication no way. That is called power of silence. Power of silence can be very powerful. People don't speak a word. Sometimes you are quiet, then I get worried. What is happening? Am I deterring you from speaking. So therefore, power of silence must be very carefully exercised, and people should try to sort of check it out. Two-way power and no-way communication cannot be there. It is impossible. If no way is the power and there is no way communication, it is indifference. We are indifferent to each other. Solitude, all into themselves. During COVID, many times, many families stopped caring about each other. Some did not. And of course, they had no power on each other, but they could have used emotional power. They didn't. So this is the framework. I think about the time now. So I think I should stop here. We will discuss it after the break. We'll take a break for about 10 or 15 minutes or 10 minutes. What do you prefer? What should be the break time?
10 minutes is okay.
Huh?
10 minutes is okay.
10 minutes. I was thinking some of you will say, more the better, but let us keep 10 minutes because we are now coming to the end of the course and there's a lot of content to share today. So let's say it is 6:56, you are getting 4 minutes extra. So we meet at 7:10. All right, 14 minutes. 7:10. Please come back at 7:10. You can have 1 more minute. Please still have 1 minute. All right. Please switch on your videos for a minute so that I can see all of you. That's always very helpful. Faces give energy. Yes, yes. Please switch on your videos. Please switch on your videos. All of you switch on your videos. Yeah, very nice to see all of your faces. Otherwise, it becomes one-way communication. You can see my face, but I cannot see your face. And that's not empowerment. I feel disempowered. So very nice, very nice. Good. Kunal, kahan ho? Kunal, you're not there yet. Devbrata, you're also there or coming back. Rajshekhar, Jyosna, aap log bhi kar lo. Please switch on your videos for a minute. I'm turning every page to see all of you. Pooja. Okay, Simran, doesn't matter. I realize that your problem. Some of you also are on desktop, which doesn't have camera, so that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. In this page, Nilamani, Robert, Josna, Saroj, Pooja, Sanket, Himaraju, Ashwin. कहाँ हो आप लोग भाई? श्रद्धा, अभिषेक, सत्यवनी, संगीता, अभिजीत, सरोज. Where are you? Rajshekhar, Sandeep Kamble, Robert Philip. Robert, you were there in the class. I saw one of the Nitin Thorat. All right, Avinash, that's fine. But what about Rajshekhar, Saroj, Pooja, Vineet, Sanket, Tulsi, Nitin? All right. Arnab is from CFT, right? That's fine. But please switch on your videos for a minute. Achha, all right, Saroj, I understand. That's fine. Those of you, and then Prabhat, Dhamraj, Dirankush, Simyan, Nutan, Udayan, Praveen, Rahmat, Divya Mukherjee, Sharad, Prateek, Supriya, Khushbu. Please switch on your videos. Please switch on. Gaurav, Kiran, Jirankush, Megha, Nutan, Sabar Ali, Rupali, Anjana. Okay, you're not working. Doesn't matter. It's okay. But what about remaining? Jirankush, क्या हुआ? East में, Jorat में क्या दिक्कत है? Vyashali, Ankita, Rashmi Ranjan is there. उसने वीडियो ऑन नहीं किया रश्मि रंजन ने, सूर्यकांत ने भी नहीं किया, प्रणय रॉय ने भी नहीं किया. Namrata, please switch on your videos. I want to see you all for a minute. I need energy. Where do I get energy from? Momita, Annapurna, Diksha, Vivek. Please switch on your videos. Surya, Komal, Anusuya, Catherine, Komal, Timane, Diksha, Sanjeev, Nishtha, Rahul, Madhuvanti, Yogesh. Please switch on your videos. Please switch on your videos. Please switch on your videos. And 2 more pages to go. Arif, Mosami, Samrin. Samrin was there. She mentioned, I think she has a problem. Dipjyoti, Pratibha, Rutuja, Pavan, Sravya, Vijayananda, Neelam, Nausam, Jyotirmai, Avinash, Joya Sheikh, Ankumi, Pravan Pulbandar, and I will go to the next page now, last page. Devi Prasad, yes, now it looks nice. Now it looks nice. Yes, there's no problem, Supriya, but if you can't, that's okay. But you know, keep it on for a while. I mean, there is nothing wrong. Sanjeet, yes, go ahead. Sanjeet, you were saying something? Sanjeet? Pranay is okay. Pranay is okay. Camera is not working, that's fine. Sanjeet has raised his hand, but I'm not hearing his voice. Speak up, please. What are you saying? Or is it earlier hand raised? Are you saying something? Kunal is saying something? Your mic is not mute. Kunal, do you want to say something? Okay. All right. So we will continue. My suggestion is that once in a while, it is always good to know how many are awake, how many have switched on and gone away to do their lab work or have snacks or dinner. It's not a good idea, you know, to keep your virtual proxy presence. Real presence is very important. And okay, we will go further now and look at the next level of next dimension for innovation, diffusion. So this is a very important slide for those of you who would like to deeply evaluate what should be diffused. So sometimes there is an artifactual diffusion. Water filter is there and it diffuses at water filter. That is artifactual. Then there is analogic, metaphor. And as a metaphor, it becomes very powerful. A lot of biomimicry-based innovations are metaphorical in nature. You all know the famous example of Velcro. It came from Koppelsberg, a Swiss engineer in 1950s, late 50s, found the Koppelsberg attached to his pants when he was walking through a meadow. And he thought this question arose in his mind, why does it stick to the cloth? He looked at the spine and a particular angle at which the spine was curved at the edge. And that gave rise to Velcro. So analogic in learning is very important. Sometimes diffusion is analogic. Third is heuristic as a model, as a principle. So as we discussed yesterday, in the case of windmill, I think I mentioned that when Mehta Hussain and Mushtaq Ahmed used a bamboo windmill to run a hand pump to irrigate paddy field. They asked two questions which many times we don't ask in irrigation system. First question they said, does it matter whether you irrigate the crop in 4 hours or 40 hours? Because hand pump will irrigate very slowly. The answer is 40 hours is better than 4 hours. Does anybody know why? Why slow irrigation is better than fast irrigation? Anybody? Anybody can guess? Any student of
so the demand. So the demand is will be fulfilled in both cases, but in 4 hours it will wash away the land as well. The absorption of the water will not be taken properly as it would have been taken in 40 hours.
Very good point. There is a leaching of nutrients. In 4 hours, there will be more leaching of nutrients. In 40 hours, there will not be leaching of nutrients. Secondly, plants need moisture. They don't need water, except paddy, which needs standing water. Most of the crops don't need water, they need moisture. Now, think of it as a heuristic. And then, of course, the second question he asked is that water from the hand pump will come in spurts, single wall. Does it matter whether it is uniform flow or irregular flow? It doesn't matter really to the efficiency of irrigation. Now, think of this as a thumb rule. And you are designing a boiler for an industrial plant. And what do? You sometimes smoothen the flow instead of getting it in spurts. maybe certain compounds mix better when they are dissolved in spurts rather than uniformly. Maybe the physics of that chemical compound is different. And it does not matter whether, it may matter in fact sometimes, that if you give that reaction, if you give the smoother flow, it may actually be dysfunctional. It may take more energy. So flow rate need not be smooth in all the cases. Second, slower combustion may be better. Slower boiling may be better in certain cases. So faster, high temperature. You all know that in the market today, you get kachi ghani oil. That means oil which is cold press. The cold press is a slower system. Why do you buy cold press? Anybody? Why do you buy cold press oil for your cooking? And not the faster pressed oil? What is the reason? Anybody from CFTRI? Tell everybody what's the reason? Anybody from CFTRI? I saw several people from CFTRI. Can you explain why cold press is better? Why do consumers prefer cold press mustard oil or cold press oil rather than the normally industrially extracted oil? The reason is, at low temperature, a lot of proteins don't get denatured. So nutritively speaking, cold press oil is better. Now you see the point? Slower extraction, sometime, in fact, many times, is healthier. Now, this is a thumb rule. This thumb rule can be applied to slow cooking, slow food movement. Some of you might be interested in finding out more about slow food movement as against fast food movement. Fast speed boiler versus slow speed boiler. Faster irrigation versus slower irrigation. So, from sustainability perspective, there are certain times, certain cases where we may have certain one way of doing things is better than other. And heuristic is the thumb rule. Now, we are not diffusing hand pump for diffusion. No, we're not. We are diffusing the principle underlying this model of irrigation, which Mehtar Hussain and Mushtaq Ahmed designed in Assam. So please understand that heuristic level diffusion is very important. In industrial context, it is even more important. What is the thumb rule? What is the principle that we must try to diffuse? Very important. And then fourth is Gestalt, a constellation of technology, science, technology, institutions, and culture. All the four levels of engagement, all the four have to be tuned to be able to have sustainable diffusion. So any question about it before I proceed further? Yes, you're right, Sashri. Very true, very true, very true. Any question? Any question? Any comment to these four dimensions of diffusion of innovation, four levels and four aspects of diffusion, so that we don't get stuck only at architecture? I would like some of you to get into the heuristic diffusing heuristics of innovation, so that you can influence you can have your impact across domains, across sectors. I gave you example about the surface area of a cooking vessel, for example, the day when most of the cooking vessels are flat surface, and Mr. Savalia made the ribbed bottom, which increased the surface area and therefore more heat transfer and therefore more fuel efficiency. Now, this is a thumb rule. You can apply it to vessels, you can apply it to boilers. In boiler, some of you might know that the tube through which the oil tube is there, oil tube keeps temperature for longer period. So there are oil tubes with the oil in them, which are put in the boilers to maintain the temperature. Now, they have got, just like on a glass, you will have depressions. So they have a surface with some kind of ribbing, some kind of curves, grooves, to increase the total surface area of the tube from which the heat radiates. So that's a good idea. That's a good example of heuristic level diffusion. Don't get stuck only at architecture. That's important, but that's not the only thing that you can do. You can do something better. Now, This is a framework I had discussed in one of the earlier class. I'm just recalling it. What are the motivations for innovations? What are the triggers? What are the initiatives? What are the innovations, and how diffusion takes place? We will take one of the slide of diffusion faster, but before we go, this is the one of the framework which classically used. Who are the early adopters? Who are late adopters? One of the flaw in this framework, very famous diffusion of innovation framework, is that if you look at agriculture sector, the early adopter in wheat, that is winter season, Rabi season, maybe late adopter in monsoon season. So there's a farmer who grows high-yielding variety of wheat in winter, but grows traditional variety of rice in monsoon because he has a low-lying land, and there in the flooding condition or deep water conditions, only traditional varieties survive and the modern varieties don't survive. So this framework has a problem. It is not a behavioral attribute that some people are always early adopters, some people are already. It depends upon the context. I can be early adopter in one context and very late adopter in another context. So when it comes to electronic gadget, I may be early adopter. When it comes to clothes or some other utilities, I'm a late adopter because I don't have preference for them. I don't care about them. So my behavior may be different in different domains. And sociologically, one should not label people as early or late adopters. It is the behavior of a particular context that is there. That's why I'm sharing this, that you should look at it. Limitation is not it's a purely behavioral model, and we should recognize the limitation of this model. Now, there are different factors which facilitate diffusion. We discussed some of them: risk and return, gender factors, seasonality, user context, I may be rich or poor. All of these factors, most of these factors we have looked at. Some factors facilitate, some inhibit. And incentives could be individual, common, collective for lab level incentives, individual level incentives, public level incentives, or disincentives. They together affect the propensity for scholars like you to take steps to diffuse your findings. And then when diffusion takes place, the feedback can be positive or negative. If feedback is negative, it may lead to discontinuance. But look at this. You have a matrix here: early adoption, early discontinuance. Very smart people. They know the difficulty with the innovation very fast. So they decide not to continue with it. But there are some people who continue with it, thinking that let me see what others do, and let me continue for some more time, etc. Then there are people who late adopt and early discontinuance. They're watching everybody. They're learning from others' experience. Now they think, okay, and now I'm ready to adopt this solution. And then they may also early discontinuance if their feedback is not good. And of course, late adoption, late discontinuance. So there are different models of discontinuance. A lot of us have studied adoption, but have not studied discontinuance. So when you do a survey of adoption and you find some people say we are not using, ask them a question: did you use and then stop using it? If so, they have something useful to tell you. Don't miss those people. Don't mix up in your sample, in your study, those who have adopted your ideas or adopted your lab technology versus those who have adopted and discontinued. But when you ask them a question, are you using it? The answer is no. You think they have not adopted it. Wrong. You have not asked them. So it's a wrongly framed question. So please remember that discontinuance is a very important part. All of us discontinue use of some of the other thing. I'm sure you will agree. And wherever we discontinue, we should capture that. Then there is experimentation by the user. I may discontinue your solution, but I may try to do something derivative based on it. And that feedback should come to. That's why I was asking a question earlier to you. Have you gone to some of the adopters of your innovation? And if not, do find some time. Ask your lab whether there are licenses in nearby area where your lab is located. Just make a social visit and discuss with them, take an appointment, discuss with them what is their experience. You're not doing an audit. You're trying to understand whether they have made any improvements, any modifications in the technology that you do. That is the purpose. And if you find that, find out what improvement they made and then give feedback to your colleagues, your professors or colleagues who have worked on that technology. That would be very meaningful. You will find that user-driven innovation, Von Hippel has spent his lifetime on that. His book is available at MIT. His site, Von Hippel, Eric Von Hippel, very dear friend of mine at Sloan School at MIT. And he wrote a book on this whole process of democratizing innovations, particularly in the context of corporate innovations. And his argument is that when people, the user of these innovations, modify, find new ways in which they use this product, that the innovations may not ever emerge in the companies, but they should learn or learn from it. So this is, now let us look at some lessons of COVID. And how did ideas diffuse? So when we look at the dispenser, it met an urgent need, affected everybody, rich and poor, everywhere, was easy to fabricate, did not require third-party approval or support. Copying or imitation was easy, local improvement, adaptation was also easy. Youth got a thrill when they made something going and people appreciated, oh, you have made a good dispenser, you made a good hand washing tool. It didn't cost much, had multiple applications. Food kettle was also used for hand washing, not just dispensers and utensils. And community, bureaucracy, peers were very supportive. It didn't hurt anybody's interest. So these were the reasons why the food kettle dispenser diffused very widely, very quickly. So we should learn that even in the case of pandemic, some solutions were diffusing widely and some not. I don't know how many of you know that US government gave a $500,000, $500,000 award for redesigning masks. Many of you face that problem, and you still may be facing when you use mask. Your specs, if you are using spec like me, gets foggy. The same exhaled breath gets recirculated sometimes. And there are many other problems of pain in the back of the ear and so on. So they listed down all these problems and give a challenge award of $500,000 for designing masks. Challenge awards can be very meaningful. Some of you, when you are in a position of power of that kind, or you can persuade your lab head or lab in charge. And if there's a problem that you're not getting a good solution at, throw a challenge award. Let's say there are 5 different wastes that you are not able to find any use for. Throw a challenge. Anybody can find uses. We'll give them 1 lakh or 2 lakh or whatever award that you want to give if you have contingency funds of your lab to give such a challenge. And find out how did they come across the uses when the scientists born in that field could not. To give you an example of how sometimes you can learn, there was one of my colleagues, Siddharth Bhatia, was working with me a long time ago. He's now in Mumbai. He was doing a study in Bihar as to how do people cope with arsenic problem in some villages where they don't get affected by arsenic toxicity. So he found that the people were using water from open well did not get arsenic problem. People were using hand pump were getting arsenic problem in the same region. Point was very simple. It's a simple physics and chemistry. The leaching of arsenic is taking place where there was less air, and in the cavity of the hand pump, that was causing problem. But in well water, you were not finding arsenic because of a lot of air available. That was very interesting. So simple solution is, if you want to use hand pump, put it in the well. Don't make a bore well, and the problem will get over. Now, there are sometimes lessons of this kind, which despite doing $1 million research, करोड़ों रुपए हम खर्च करेंगे बताने के लिए भी, हम आर्सेनिक रिमूवल पे तो काम करेंगे, लेकिन आर्सेनिक की प्रॉब्लम जड़ से खत्म हो जाए, वो तो नहीं सोचा हमने. This boy could find out from the community a simple solution. So simple solutions can be found from the users, in this case of hand pumps. When they compare and contrast, Buddha taught us this lesson 2000 years ago. Compare and contrast. Look at the 2 extremes of a distribution, left tail and the right tail. Contrast those realities or those evidences of those phenomena. And for all that you know, you might find the reason for 95% of the central tendency, central area. Now there are 2 more models to be discussed. Long tail of innovation. What is long tail? The long tail is that some innovations will diffuse very widely, some less, some less, some less. Some will go to niche, and some may not diffuse at all. That's the long tail. Not all ideas will diffuse widely. In Honeybee Network, that's our experience. Only few innovations, maybe less than 10%, diffuse widely. 90% don't. They remain localized in those villages or that small region. So now comes very important part. There are 3 dimensions of diffusion that we should think about. One is, should niche-based unmet need and compatible solution be the legitimate object of our concern? We discussed that earlier, that we should not focus only on widely diffusible solutions, but also limited. Should innovations for small communities receive less attention in a diversified region with heterogeneous social structure? In mountains, no 2 valleys are alike. No 2 climes are alike. Every valley has a different ecosystem. They will need different kinds of solutions. In Gorej Valley, where we went for Yatra, they keep their vegetables fresh by digging a 15 to 20 feet deep ditch, a kind of an underground tank, a storage place where they grow vegetables and where they grow, and they store vegetables. Now, this is geothermal energy. We all know that temperature below 4 feet, 5 feet is different. That differential temperature. In winter, you get hot, warm water in the well. And many of those of you who come from villages might have experienced that when you take water from a well for taking bath or whatever, in winter it is warm, in summer it is cool. Why? Geothermal. Simple physics. So now, if that is the case, then you can't design the same system for cooling, creating cooling environment or warm environment for vegetable storage or other things storage in different regions having different geothermal conditions. So please appreciate that with good science at your command, solid science at your command, you can indeed develop very good technologies, but keeping the heterogeneity in mind. It is a clumsy affair. It is a murky affair to look at all the variations in the user context. But that's the way sustainability will come. Assuming uniform conditions and then developing a solution which is uniform design, yes, it will fit completely well in some cases, but have less fit in other cases. And that is something that we should then. So as we were talking about Devrata's case, if we could give them a table that please get a water tested, if it is 28 ppm, your filter would need cleaning after 6 months or 3 months or every month, depending upon how much content of iron you have. The frequency of cleaning will change. That modification can be done very easily and will make it fit more niches than if we say 3 years duration, no problem, is less than 10. But then some places you have more. So how do I adapt? I don't have a formula in my mind, but you know the formula. Give me the formula. Then there are innovations with moderate diffusion potential. They are more suitable for adaptive environment. So apple variety by Hariman Sharma in Himachal Pradesh. It was scouted by Dr. O.P. Gautam, former Director General and Chairman of National Biodiversity Authority, and a very dear friend. He was also BPVFR chairman. So he brought his work to our notice when I was still inactive in NIF. And then our team took up trials in about 20 states. This variety of apple grows in the plain. So in Delhi, you have apple. In Gujarat, you get apple, which was unthinkable. So this diffused in much wider range of environment because this apple variety could adapt to different altitude and temperature environment. And people could adapt its manuring and other things. So ideas which are easy to modify and maintain by user, as one of you mentioned, that repairability, maintenance, and all that, tend to have higher diffusion potential. Then word of mouth gets created. You talk about something good. So today you found, for example, this gas cylinder carrier, nice, cost is not too much. You might tell other 10 other people. And I'm sure, Anamya, can you If it is on the YouTube video, can you put the link of that on the chat if it's possible? Or we can send it later on also. So then you might diffuse it. So word of mouth, if you wrote about some of the innovations that grassroots people have developed to 10 of your friends, imagine a few hundred students writing to 10 of them, it will reach to thousands of people, and they will then share it, will reach to 10,000 people, 10 million. So word of mouth is very powerful way of diffusing innovations. And please remember, each one of you, I will implore, I will plead, I will demand that you should at least share one innovative idea every week, if not every day. One innovative idea every week, whichever you like, from whichever domain you like, doesn't matter. Just share it on your social media so that we create buzz for awareness and diffusion. And if possible, give the contact address, contact number, or email of the person. Regional support through network of institutions also helps. Now let us look at the diffusion of DIY. Share openly or restricted. Should I share the knowledge, or I should also build your capacity to use that knowledge? That's very important. Many times sharing is easy, but I don't know how to use it. I don't have the skills to use it. Then DIY doesn't become really DIY. Then risk capital, follow up, getting feedback, improving it, then again diffusing it. This zigzag of diffusion must be pursued. Co-creating solutions, supporting implementation, all of that. Then there are IP protected, should I exclusively license or non-exclusive? In the case of water filters, there was non-exclusive license. So 150 people got access to the technology, non-exclusive. Then maybe the license fee was very small. We created a concept of technology commons, which means people to people, copying is allowed and encouraged. People to firm, only through licensing. So that is hybridization between open source and IP protection. For community, it is open source. For companies, it is IP protected. There is also conditional or unconditional license. If you do not make it work in 3 years or 5 years, whatever time you decide, the license will revert and we will not pay you back any money, because I don't want you to sit on my technology and kill it because you want to sell your less efficient technologies. That is, you are preventing competition. And I will not let you do that. So the clause of licensing must include a reversal of IP if not practiced, if not commercialized within a given period of time. Similarly, linked versus unlinked. Here we discuss the long tail. Let me give you the long nose example. This one, where my cursor is the long nose of innovation. What does it mean? It takes a long time to emerge and also take a long time to come to the market. So mouse was discovered decades before the Windows 95 came. And when Windows 95 came, Windows 93 came, we found that mouse was a very useful navigation tool on the computer. Before that, we were using Unix or DOS, and we didn't need mouse because everything was telnet. We need to type the command, and through that we will retrieve data, we will send data. So there was no need for mouse. But mouse had been discovered, but we didn't find the use. And that's how some innovations are much ahead of the time. And they're before time, therefore they don't diffuse. We have discussed this. I will stop and just now give a small exercise. We have time. We have about 15 minutes. So there are 4 incentives here. I'm going to share a form with you where you will give what incentives would you like to give or you prefer for diffusing innovations. There are 4 kinds: material individual, endowment, R&D awards, grants, financial award, scholarships, etc., or equipments being given to you. Material collective, these are for the lab, not for individual, for the whole team. Venture funds, trust fund, collective award, support for institution building. Non-material, recognition, citation, honor, memorial. You are invited to meet the president, you are invited to meet the prime minister. That's a personal meeting. That's a non-material or media coverage. Non-material collective, policy changes, pedagogic changes, role model institutions, public recognition of the group, etc. Now, there is a form here. Please, I will put it on the chat. Just a minute. And then Sorry. Let me put it on the chat. And you can then use this. And I'll show you a small film. If you can download this link, and you can fill it up later also. It doesn't matter, even if you don't do just now. But it is important that you do it. Just open it. Just try to open this link. Open this link, this form, please. And you can fill the kind of incentives you prefer for innovation, for finding innovative solution and diffusing them. Which kind of incentives you will give most importance to. Are you able to download? Hello, are you able to download? Ranjit, Devabrata, Savanya, have you checked up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are able to download. Sir.
Okay, so then please open it, and then you know now what it is. Let everybody download. Please, everybody should download. Please, everybody should download. Copy it on your system, whatever system you are using. But then once I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to download before I show you the film. Because when I show you the film, you should not be distracted. So let me share the film with you. And it's a very simple animation. So this is, I'm going to show about this film. Just a minute, let me see how I do that. When I share,
the DISC test. It's a survey.
You're able to hear it? The voice will come in a minute, in a second.
Our motivations are unbelievably interesting. I mean, I've been working on this for a few years, and I just find the topic still so amazingly engaging and
You're able to hear?
So I want to tell you about that.
Hello.
The science is really surprising. The science is a little bit freaky.
Okay.
Okay. We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think. There's a whole set of unbelievably interesting.
Hello, sir.
Too,
yes.
That call into question.
Sir, can you please you show the last slide for a minute?
I'm copying it on the chat. Take it from the chat. Can you take it from the chat?
Let's go from
okay,
London
sir, okay.
to the mean streets of Cambridge, Massachusetts,
okay,
the northeastern part of the United States. And let's talk about a study done at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Here's what they did. They took a whole group of students and they gave them a set of challenges. Things like memorizing strings of digits, solving word puzzles, other kinds of spatial puzzles, even physical tasks like throwing a ball through a hoop. Okay, they gave them these challenges and they said to incentivize their performance, they gave them 3 levels of rewards. Okay, so if you did pretty well, you got a small monetary reward. If you did medium well, you got a medium monetary reward. And if you did really well, if you were one of the top performers, you got a large cash prize. Okay, we've seen this movie before. This is essentially a typical motivation scheme within organizations, right? We reward the very top performers. We ignore the low performers and the other folks kind of in the middle. Okay, you get a little bit. So what happens? They do the test. They have these incentives. Here's what they found out. 1, as long as the task involved only mechanical skill, bonuses worked as they would be expected. The higher the pay, the better their performance. Okay, that makes sense. But here's what happens. But once the task called for even rudimentary cognitive skill, a larger reward led to poorer performance. Now, this is strange, right? A larger reward led to poorer performance? How can that possibly be? Now, what's interesting about this is that these folks here who did this are all economists, 2 at MIT, 1 at the University of Chicago, 1 at Carnegie Mellon, okay, the top tier of the economics profession. And they're reaching this conclusion that seems contrary to what a lot of us learned in economics, which is that the higher the reward, the better their performance. And they're saying that once you get above rudimentary cognitive skill, it's the other way around. which seems like this kind of, the idea that these rewards don't work that way seems vaguely left-wing and socialist, doesn't it? It's kind of this kind of weird socialist conspiracy. For those of you who have those conspiracy theories, I want to point out the notoriously left-wing socialist group that financed the research, the Federal Reserve Bank. So this is the mainstream of the mainstream coming to a conclusion that's quite surprising, seems to defy the laws of behavioral physics. So this is strange, a strange finding. So what do? They say, this is freaky. Let's go test it somewhere else. Maybe that $50 or $60 prize isn't sufficiently motivating for an MIT student, right? So let's go to a place where $50 is actually more significant relatively, right? So let's take the experiment. We're going to go to Madurai, India, rural India, where $50, $60, whatever the number was, is actually a significant sum of money. So they replicated the experiment in India roughly as follows. Small rewards, the equivalent of 2 weeks' salary. Small performance, low performance, 2 weeks' salary. Medium performance, about a month's salary. High performance, about 2 months' salary. Okay, so those are real good incentives. Okay, so you're going to get a different result here. Well, what happened, though, was that the people offered the medium reward did no better than the people offered the small reward. But this time around, the people offered the top reward. They did worst of all. Higher incentives led to worse performance. What's interesting about this is that it actually isn't all that anomalous. This has been replicated over and over and over again by psychologists, by some extent by sociologists, and by economists, over and over and over again. For simple, straightforward tasks, those kinds of incentives, if you do this, then you get that, they're great. For tasks that are algorithmic, set of rules where you have to just follow along and get a right answer, if-then rewards, carrots and sticks, outstanding. But when the task gets more complicated, when it requires some conceptual creative thinking, those kinds of motivators demonstrably don't work. In fact, money is a motivator at work, but in a slightly strange way. If you don't pay people enough, they won't be motivated. What's curious about, there's another paradox here, which is that the best use of money as a motivator is to pay people enough to take the issue of money off the table. Pay people enough so that they're not thinking about money and they're thinking about the work. Now, once you do that, it turns out there are 3 factors that the science shows lead to better performance, not to mention personal satisfaction. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is our desire to be self-directed, to direct our own lives. Now, in many ways, traditional notions of management run afoul of that. Management is great if you want compliance, but if you want engagement, which is what we want in the workforce today as people are doing more complicated, sophisticated things, self-direction is better. Let me give you some examples of this, of almost radical forms of self-direction in the workplace that lead to good results. Let's start with this company right here, Atlassian, an Australian company. It's a software company, and they do something really cool. Once a quarter on a Thursday afternoon, they say to their developers, for the next 24 hours, you can work on anything you want. You can work on it the way you want. You can work on it with whomever you want. All we ask is that you show the results to the company at the end of those 24 hours in this fun kind of meeting, not a star chamber session, but this fun meeting with beer and cake and fun and other things like that. It turns out that that one day of pure undiluted autonomy has led to a whole array of fixes for existing software, a whole array of ideas for new products that otherwise had never emerged. One day. Now, this is not an if-then incentive. This is not the sort of thing that I would have done 3 years ago before I knew this research. I would have said, you want people to be creative and innovative? Give them a freaking innovation bonus. If you can do something cool, I'll give you $2,500. They're not doing this at all. They're essentially saying, you probably want to do something interesting. Let me just get out of your way. One day of autonomy produces things that had never emerged. Okay, let's talk about mastery. Mastery is our urge to get better at stuff. We like to get better at stuff. This is why people play musical instruments on the weekend. You got all these people who are acting in ways that seem irrational economically. They play musical instruments on weekends. Why? It's not going to get them a mate. It's not going to make them any money. Why are they doing it? Because it's fun, because you get better at it, and that's satisfying. Go back in time a little bit. I imagine this if I went to my first economics professor, a woman named Mary Alice Schulman, and I went to her in 1983 and said, Professor Schulman, can I talk to you after class for a moment? Yeah. I got this inkling. I got this idea for a business model. I just want to run it past you. Here's how it would work. You get a bunch of people around the world who are doing highly skilled work, but they're willing to do it for free and volunteer their time, 20, sometimes 30 hours a week. Okay, she's looking at you somewhat skeptically there. Oh, but I'm not done. And then what they create, they give it away rather than sell it. It's going to be huge. I mean, she truly would have thought I was insane. Okay, it seemed to fly in the face of so many things. But what do you have? You have Linux powering 1 out of 4 corporate servers in Fortune 500 companies, Apache powering more than the majority of web servers, Wikipedia. What's going on? Why are people doing this? Why are these people, many of whom are technically sophisticated, highly skilled people who have jobs? Okay, they have jobs. They're working at jobs for pay, doing sophisticated technological work, and yet during their limited discretionary time, they do equally, if not more, technically sophisticated work, not for their employer, but for someone else for free. That's a strange economic behavior. Economists who look into it, why are they doing this? It's overwhelmingly clear. Challenge and mastery, along with making a contribution. That's it. What you see more and more is a rise of what you might call the purpose motive, is that more and more organizations want to have some kind of transcendent purpose, partly because it makes coming to work better, partly because that's the way to get better talent. And what we're seeing now is, in some ways, when the profit motive becomes unmoored from the purpose motive, bad things happen. Bad things ethically sometimes, but also bad things just like not good stuff, like crappy products, like lame services, like uninspiring places to work. That when the profit motive is paramount, or when it becomes completely unhitched from the purpose motive, it's just, people don't do great things. More and more organizations are realizing this and sort of disturbing the categories between what's profit and what's purpose. And I think that actually heralds something interesting. And I think that the organizations that are flourishing, whether they're profit, for profit, or somewhere in between, are animated by this purpose motive. Let me give you a couple of examples. Here's the founder of Skype. He says, our goal is to be disruptive, but in the cause of making the world a better place. Pretty good purpose. Here's Steve Jobs. One of being in the universe. All right? That's the kind of thing that they can go to work. So I think that there are purpose maximizers, not only profit maximizers. I think the science shows that we care about mastery very, very deeply. And the science shows that we want to be self-directed. And I think that the big takeaway here is that if we start treating people like people and not assuming that they're simply horses, slower, smaller, better smelling horses, if we get past this kind of ideology of carrots and sticks and look at the science, I think we can actually build organizations and work lives that make us better off. But I also think they have the promise to make our world just a little bit better.
Does it make sense? Sorry, let me just stop. Does it make sense? I will share the video link. Yes, I will send you the video link also, so you can see it again and share it with your friends. That's very simple. Let me just do that. And I realize that some of you are facing a problem in filling up the form. I will get it fixed up and send you the form tomorrow. If it is not working, please don't mind. I will definitely get it sorted out. If not tonight, then tomorrow. And yes, now this is the link. Just check whether this is the right link and then tell me if it is all right. Just try, one of you can try this. Is it the right YouTube link? For the film that you just saw, the animation that you just saw. Can you try it? And tell me if it is okay. Yes, okay. Siddharth, the link is working, the form is working.
Yes, sir, it is working.
All right, thank you then. Thank you. I'm sorry, one of the mentioned. All right, so friends, moral of the story is very clear that there is more to life than just material reward, but doesn't matter. You can still disagree with it, with the theme of this film, and you can still talk about your own preferences for finding innovative solutions and also delivering them, preferably for societal needs, but also others, doesn't matter. Tomorrow, you can tell your friends, I will answer the question that was asked 2 days ago about my own journey in bringing about policy and institutional changes over the last 35 years, pursued by empirical research and work. So therefore, when I talk about this story, my purpose is to help you to understand that all of you can bring about policy and institutional changes to support the evolution and diffusion of the developmental model in your mind. You can innovate new designs of institutions. You can innovate new policies. You can innovate new ways of doing business, which may never have been done in this country or in this world. It is all possible. So we will discuss how it is possible. I would like all of you to be then optimistic about what your power really is, because if I am an ordinary person from a very ordinary middle class background, we could do because of the network, because of the colleagues who joined hands. One person cannot do that. So we will discuss tomorrow that how through network partnership, through solidarity, we can bring about institutional and policy changes, which may be sometimes necessary for taking our innovations forward, because we have often focused only on technological change, but not on supportive policies and institutional change that's required. In the case of water filter, if Government of India had not included it under the Jal Shakti mission and had not made it an important part of public procurement, it would have been difficult. So how do we mobilize that support is what we will discuss today. Goodbye.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Hello,
go ahead.
sir.
Go ahead, Sushri. Yeah, please.
Sir, can you share the couple of slides that you said a few minutes back?
Which one? Which one do you need without? Tell me.
That honor, where you mention about the honor, how an innovation should be.
You mean the
honored.
portfolio of incentives?
Yes.
Portfolio of incentives?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So which mail address should I mail it? I can mail it just now. Is there a common address that you have?
Actually, there is a box like how an innovation should be.
Portfolio of incentive, material, non-material.
Yeah, yes, I think so.
So how do I send it to all of you? What is the way to do that? What
No,
is
you just share that slide.
Share with whom?
Means
how do I share?
You
Sir,
share
on
your screen here, sir.
Share the
Sorry?
Share the screen.
Share your screen.
Oh, share the
Means
screen.
like,
Okay. I'm doing that. I thought you wanted a copy of that, which I can do that. Now, are you able to see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But then you mentioned your preferences. Don't copy these. You can try to add some of your own preferences. That will be very helpful, because I don't want to hear the echo of my voice. I mean, I and Anamika, we don't want to hear what we are saying. You tell us again the same thing. Then we won't learn much. But try to find your own way of expressing what kind of incentives do you think, what kind of portfolio of incentives. Sometimes one incentive is not enough. We need a portfolio. That's what my argument has been, that we need to combine different kinds of incentives. Now, how would you like to combine it? I don't know, but you will tell us.
Yes, sir. It's just to get an idea.
Yeah, you can take a photograph of this on your camera or whatever. You can capture this, whichever way it is easier for you. I would also be able to send this entire slide, of course. But on YouTube, of course, you have this video now. You know that. The ACSIR YouTube channel has all the videos of all the classes of all the batches. This is the third batch, I think. So all the 3 batches videos, because obviously there'll be some variation every time. They are available on YouTube channel of ACSIR. All right, shall I take it off?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right, good luck, all the best. See you tomorrow at the
Thank you,
same
sir.
time. And I will tomorrow hopefully be able to, tomorrow can I show them? And let's see it. If we can show you the preparation of the food festival, we will show you that. Good luck, all the best. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Good night.